Hi, so today I'm going to be interviewing Jack Medlock here on ADHD and education. So first, tell us a little bit about yourself, Jack.
Hi, my name is Jack Medlock. I am currently a physics major at NC State, and I went to Scotland Early College before that. Graduated in 2020, pandemic years. Didn't get a graduation.
Yeah.
That's no problem. No, but that's currently what we're going through right now, and I'm just eager to get back into a classroom and actually do some real work.
So you have ADHD, correct?
Okay, you don't have to tell the world about it. But yeah.
So tell us a little bit about how ADHD affected your time at school and in your education.
Oh, do you mean just through the pandemic, or
Just in general.
throughout K through?
Throughout life.
Okay. Well, it's been very hard to focus in a classroom. Sometimes you might have an assignment or some sort of activity for the students that doesn't really work well with somebody with ADHD.
Like?
Specifically ones that where you're sitting down and you're trying to stay focused in one spot. That's always the hardest. That's why recess was always the easiest subject for me in school. Yeah, something like that. Tests were always a hard thing for me to do. If I wasn't frequently taking my medication, I would definitely take my medication for an EOC, which is integrating end of course. Final exams for classes. My brain would just trail off, thinking about weird things. It has nothing remotely to do with it. There could have been a phrase that the teacher may have said, which would be like, "I like cake and ice cream." And then I think of ice cream, and then I think of the scene in the SpongeBob movie where SpongeBob and Patrick got drunk off of ice cream. It doesn't make any sense, but it kind of does. There's a connection there, but my brain is able to link a connection pretty quickly to it, and then I get transported. And it's hard for me to focus that way. So I take medication for it to help ease the symptoms. It doesn't get rid of the disorder itself. It's just it constantly will be with me until we find some solution.
So speaking of medication, what is your opinion on medicating children at a young age?
I think in some cases it's a bit reckless because, like I've said, I'm medicated. So, I mean, if medication works, then, by all means do it. But for some teachers, including some that I know personally, will try to encourage the parents to get the child on medication. When it could just be simply that the child has like a temper problem or has a temper tantrum, and we need this kid to stop being, like, for instance, somebody who I knew who was a teacher. She had a student who wasn't on his best behavior all the time. He would get in fights and things like that, and so the solution that teacher thought was for the student was, let's give him medication so he's just calm. And calm is not necessarily the best thing for everybody. I mean, you're literally putting somebody in a chemical straitjacket, and they act very differently than how they would act if they were not on the medication. For instance, when I'm on the medication, I'm very calm and I'm very collected, and I have some digestive issues.
We won't go into detail.
Yeah, we won't go into detail with that. But, I do have some weird things. Just like, it does increase your entire body in all of its processes. It's an amphetamine. So your heart starts to race more. Your body literally flushes everything out of your body. So that means number one and number two. And it's very uncomfortable. That's the first thing you really feel.
Yeah.
And you definitely feel that in the morning. And then over time, you'll definitely feel your heart rate increasing. You get a little anxious on it. And on the outside, everything seems like okay, kind of okay. So if you're somebody who is energetic and is happy all the time and they're calm the next day, some people mistaken that for sadness, and that has constantly happened throughout high school and even through college. I have coworkers who are just like, "What's wrong with you? Are you okay? Is something going on at home?" And I'm like, "No, I'm just on my medication. I'm focused. Let's get this work done. Come on, we got things to do."
Yeah.
And so they think that something is wrong when there isn't necessarily something wrong. I'm taking the medication, but I'm kind of going off on a tangent here.
We can tell that you have ADHD.
Yeah, I did not take my medication today. Still in the process of moving, so it's still at the house. But with that in mind, with all those side effects, at a young age, I don't think that is good for a student, especially if there could be some of the problems. I think a lot of teachers are, and again, this is from my personal experience with ADHD, I think, and seeing how teachers prescribe these, they don't prescribe the medications, but they encourage parents to take their kids to the doctor so the doctor can prescribe the medication. But, from what I've seen by looking in classrooms and seeing some of these students who are on medication, they don't necessarily need to be on medication. Sometimes they might not have parents who are, they don't really teach the child responsibility. I mean, at the end of the day, the parent has to be a parent, and in some cases, they're not. Yeah, so that's kind of my own opinion on that.
So getting back to ADHD and education, what are your thoughts on some of the modern day approaches to ADHD in the classroom, such as fidget toys and flexible seating? And how do you think that would have affected your education growing up?
I kind of see a value in flexible seating. Do you mean like swivel chairs, rolly chairs,
and
chairs
standing
that lower?
desks and sitting desks?
Oh, I definitely had a great time because, like I've said, I was in early college. So we were on a college campus at St. Andrews University. And in MJ, where all the annoying search students kids were, me being one of them, I love to stand up and do my work. For some reason, that was a bit more productive for me. Fidget toys, I don't know how I feel about that because I feel like I would get lost in that. Maybe not like a Rubik's Cube.
Yeah.
But something...
They have like these stretchy worm-like things that they can like just pull. And some have just like things that they can flip back and forth, like a light switch that they can keep on
like
their
a light
desk.
switch. Oh yeah, definitely. I constantly would have a pin in my hand, clicking it back and forth. Up and down, I guess. Back and forth depending on what direction.
Yeah.
Physics major. But there's definitely some things that you could use. I don't know if that's a good alternative. It's not the best alternative because, like I said, if you do really have the disorder, then you might want to get medicated. But if there's ways that some students can function without it, like if you have some mild ADHD or some sort of slight ADHD, then I don't think you would have to be medicated. If you can find some sort of alternative, you'd probably be fine. But somebody who is on the heavy side, kind of like me, I think I'm in the middle. Medication, I would propose. I wouldn't recommend it, because everybody's body's different, and you might not even be able to take it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so any final thoughts on how ADHD should be handled in a classroom?
Honestly, I think a lot of people should have put more thought into the sort of system that we have in place now through this pandemic. It's not meant for people who can just sit or who can't sit down for hours at a time. I mean, sitting down for an hour and a half and being in a lecture is enough for me. Sorry, not in a lecture in a classroom, but I mean like in a lecture alone in a room with your instructor on a computer. That kind of just feels like, mentally, that feels like the same amount of work that it would take for me to focus on watching a video
Mm-hmm.
or doing some sort of homework assignment on WebAssign, which that is to me is also another thing that was kind of it's not doesn't really work well with people who have ADHD because it's hard to focus on questions like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's not very hands-on. I think being in the classroom and being able to physically write things down kind of, I don't know, for some reason I had a better time writing notes down than I did homework. And so yeah, I really do think that this atmosphere right now is not good for them. And I know personally my grades have not been as good as they would have been if I was in a regular classroom.
Yep.
So yeah, those are my final thoughts.
Perfect. Well, that's all we have for today. So I'll see you guys later.
Bye.